Here we see the egg rolling across a flat surface. Now there are multiple forces acting on this egg, like gravity and friction, and the velocity from the roll. But let's talk about how it's moving. Every object interacts via friction, which is a force that acts in its opposing direction. When things like a box sliding on the floor occurs, where the surface of the box is rubbing against the surface of the ground, creating friction and slowing the box. The egg, however, does not have one side since it's circular. Because of its rolling motion, the force of friction is greatly decreased, allowing the egg to roll freely.
That thing spinning down the ramp, that white blur, egg. But that's not important. What's important is the forces acting on this egg. Here in this beautiful force diagram chart that I made you, you can see a couple of forces working to make this happen. The force of normal, the red arrow pointing up and out with the angle of the ramp, is the force perpendicular to the surface of the ramp. Your force of normal points perpendicular when an object is resting or when falling. The force of gravity, the arrow pointing down, is the force acting gravity. The force of gravity is measured by multiplying the mass and acceleration of an object, usually by gravity. So 20 times 9.81, saying this egg is 20 kilograms. So the force of gravity is 196.2. To find out the forces in the x and y planes, we can plug them into a sine and cosine equation. The sine being our x-axis in this graph and the cosine being our y. That gives us 50.7 newtons of force and 189.3 newtons of force. All these forces act together to move the egg down the ramp.
As I throw the egg in the air, velocity is increasing. Gravity is still affected by egg, which is why it doesn't continue to go into the air. At this point, the egg has stopped because it has zero velocity. As it starts to go back down, the velocity of the egg increases. Here we can see the weight of the yolk pulling itself through the egg. Imagine it were a string and the end of the yolk is the weight. Say the weight is 10 kilograms. You would multiply it by the force of gravity, 9.81, to find your force of tension, which would be 9.81 times n.